Most people destroy their own potential before the world ever gets the chance to challenge them. Not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because they cannot silence their ego. Ego craves attention. Ego demands validation. Ego reacts, argues, proves, explains. And every time it does, it drains your power. This audiobook is your training ground. You will learn to master restraint, command your reactions, and weaponize silence. Because the strongest minds are not loud. They are controlled. And controlled minds cannot be broken. Chapter 1. Stop proving. Start becoming. Listen carefully. This is where most people lose their power. They talk too much. They explain too much. They defend too much. And every extra word leaks authority. You see it everywhere. Someone questions them, and they rush to justify themselves. Someone doubts them, and they scramble to prove themselves. Someone challenges them, and they react instantly. That reaction feels strong. It feels confident. It feels necessary. It isn't. It's ego. Ego hates silence. Ego fears being misunderstood. Ego panics when it isn't validated. So it talks. It argues. It performs. And while it performs, it drains your strength. Understand this principle now. Proof is noise. Results are silence. You have a choice. You can chase recognition, or you can build competence. You can perform for approval, or you can train for mastery. Both paths exist. Only one creates real power. Look at true professionals. Not amateurs. Not attention seekers. Professionals. The surgeon doesn't argue about skill before the operation. The architect doesn't debate talent before the design stands. The elite athlete doesn't post speeches about discipline before competition. They work. Quietly. Relentlessly. And when the result appears, it speaks for them. That's the key. Authority is not claimed. Authority is demonstrated. When you constantly prove yourself, you signal insecurity. You tell the world you need them to agree before you can believe. You tell them their opinion decides your value. And once you hand them that power, they own you. You don't need their permission. Let that sink in. The need to prove is not confidence. It's dependence. Confident people don't rush to convince. They don't chase validation. They don't beg to be understood. They build until understanding becomes unavoidable. Think about the loud beginner and the quiet master. The beginner talks about plans. The master executes them. The beginner argues about potential. The master displays results. The beginner wants attention. The master wants progress. One seeks applause. The other seeks improvement. And improvement always wins. It's not about recognition. It's about repetition. It's not about applause. It's about accuracy. It's not about being seen. It's about being skilled. Most people reverse this order. They want recognition first. They want respect before effort. They want status before substance. Ego tells them they deserve it. Discipline tells them to earn it. Ego seeks recognition before achievement. Discipline earns recognition after achievement. That's the dividing line between fragile confidence and unshakable confidence. Fragile confidence must be defended. Unshakable confidence doesn't. Why? Because one is built on opinion. The other is built on evidence. If you have to argue for your ability, you haven't built enough ability. If you have to explain your value, you haven't created enough value. If you have to convince people you're capable, you haven't produced enough proof. And remember, if you must prove it, you haven't built it. You have a choice. You can spend energy explaining, or you can spend energy improving. Both consume effort. Only one produces growth. Watch what happens when you stop explaining yourself. At first, people will question you. They'll doubt you. They'll misunderstand you. Good. Let them. Their doubt is not your emergency. Silence is not weakness. Silence is training. Every time you resist the urge to prove yourself, you strengthen discipline. Every time you let results speak instead of words, you strengthen authority. Every time you hold back unnecessary explanation, you strengthen control. Control is power. Most people cannot tolerate being doubted. That discomfort exposes them. It shows they rely on approval to feel secure. Remove the approval, and they collapse. You won't, because you're building something stronger than approval. You're building evidence. Evidence cannot be argued with. Evidence cannot be shouted down. Evidence does not care about opinions. Evidence stands. That's why results are dangerous to your critics. Results end debates. Results silence doubters. Results make explanations irrelevant. Proof is noise. Results are silence. Say it again. Let it lock into your mind. Proof is noise. Results are silence. When someone challenges you, you don't react. You improve. When someone doubts you, you don't argue. You execute. When someone questions you, you don't defend. You deliver. That is discipline. And discipline always outperforms ego. Ego wants the spotlight before the performance. Discipline demands rehearsal before recognition. Ego wants credit without cost. Discipline pays the price before claiming the prize. You don't need their permission. Not to start. Not to grow. Not to succeed. Permission is a psychological trap. It keeps you waiting. Waiting keeps you stagnant. And stagnation kills potential faster than failure ever could. Failure teaches. Waiting decays. So stop waiting for approval. Stop waiting for recognition. Stop waiting for validation. Those are distractions disguised as rewards. Your job is not to be acknowledged. Your job is to become undeniable. That's the key. Becoming undeniable means your work speaks before you do. Your results arrive before your announcement. Your skill shows before your explanation. And when that happens, something shifts. People stop questioning. They stop doubting. They stop challenging. Not because you argued them into silence. Because your results did. You didn't prove. You produced. That is the transformation. Most people live in performance mode. They act busy. They sound impressive. They display effort. But performance mode is a trap. It focuses on appearance instead of growth. It rewards looking capable instead of becoming capable. Growth mode is different. Growth mode is quiet, invisible, repetitive, sometimes boring, often unnoticed. But growth mode builds something performance mode never can. Substance. It's not about looking strong. It's about becoming strong. It's not about sounding smart. It's about thinking clearly. It's not about appearing confident. It's about being competent. You have a choice. Performance or progress. Noise or results. Ego or discipline. Choose discipline. Because discipline compounds. Ego collapses. Ego burns energy trying to impress. Discipline invests energy trying to improve. One seeks attention. The other builds ability. One fades when ignored. The other grows when unseen. And here is the truth most people never learn. Silence is not empty. Silence is preparation. While others talk, you train. While others boast, you build. While others argue, you advance. They chase recognition. You chase mastery. Recognition is temporary. Mastery is permanent. So the next time you feel the urge to prove yourself, pause. Don't speak. Don't explain. Don't defend. Work. Improve. Execute. Let them doubt. Because doubt is fuel if you know how to use it. You mastered the urge to prove. You chose results over noise. You chose discipline over ego. And that choice is the foundation of a silent mind and an unbreakable mentality. Now it's time to confront the addiction that keeps most people trapped in the proving cycle. Chapter 2: The Silent Cost of Seeking Validation. Validation feels good. That's why it's dangerous. Approval gives you a quick rush, a hit of reassurance, a moment of relief. Someone claps. Someone agrees. Someone praises. Your mind lights up. You feel stronger, more certain, more confident. But that confidence isn't real. It's rented. And rented confidence can be taken back at any time. Understand this now. Approval is rented confidence. Self-respect is owned power. You have a choice. Chase rented confidence, or build owned power. One is fast and fragile. The other is slow and permanent. Most people choose the fast one. They post for reactions. They speak for agreement. They act for applause. They don't even realize they're doing it. It becomes automatic, a habit, a reflex. Look closely at modern behavior. Someone shares an idea. They don't wait to test it. They wait to see who approves it. Someone starts a project. They don't measure progress. They measure praise. Someone takes a risk. They don't evaluate results. They evaluate reactions. That's validation addiction. Addiction changes motivation. It rewires your priorities. Instead of asking, "Is this improving me?" you start asking, "Will this impress them?" That question is a trap. Because once your actions depend on applause, your discipline depends on an audience. Remove the audience, and your effort disappears. Remove the praise, and your motivation collapses. That's the weakness validation creates. It's not about confidence. It's about dependence. Dependence is fragile. Dependence is controllable. Dependence is predictable. Anyone who controls your approval controls your behavior. That's the key. If someone can give you confidence, they can take it away. You don't need their permission. Not to act. Not to begin. Not to continue. But validation addiction tricks you into thinking you do. You start waiting. Waiting for approval before starting. Waiting for praise before continuing. Waiting for recognition before committing. Waiting becomes your lifestyle. And while you wait, nothing grows. Action builds strength. Waiting builds doubt. Say it again. Action builds strength. Waiting builds doubt. People who depend on validation cannot tolerate criticism. The moment someone disagrees, they feel attacked. The moment someone questions them, they feel threatened. The moment someone corrects them, they feel exposed. Why? Because criticism doesn't just challenge their idea. It threatens their source of confidence. When confidence is rented, criticism is eviction. That's why fragile people react emotionally to feedback. They don't hear information. They hear rejection. They don't see correction. They see disrespect. Strong minds don't react that way. Strong minds treat criticism as data. Neutral. Useful. Necessary. It's not about insult. It's about instruction. It's not about judgment. It's about adjustment. It's not about pride. It's about precision. You have a choice. You can use feedback as fuel, or you can treat it as fire. One strengthens you. The other burns you. Validation addicts burn. They argue. They defend. They explain. They protect their image instead of improving their ability. They fight to be seen as right instead of working to become better. That is ego's favorite strategy. Protect the image, ignore the flaw. Discipline does the opposite. Discipline ignores the image and fixes the flaw. That's the key. When someone criticizes you, pause. Don't react. Don't defend. Don't explain. Analyze. Ask one question: is there truth in this? If yes, improve. If no, ignore. Either way, you win. That is emotional independence. Most people never reach it. They stay trapped in approval-seeking loops. Post. Check reactions. Refresh. Compare. Adjust behavior. Repeat. Their mood rises and falls with other people's opinions. Their confidence fluctuates hourly. Their identity becomes public property. That's not strength. That's surrender. You don't need their permission to feel capable. You don't need their approval to feel valuable. You don't need their praise to feel strong. Those feelings must be built internally. Slowly. Quietly. Repeatedly. Because internal confidence cannot be revoked. External validation can disappear in seconds. One negative comment. One ignored message. One overlooked effort. And suddenly the confidence vanishes. That's the problem with rented power. The landlord can evict you any time. Owned power is different. Owned power comes from promises kept to yourself. Workouts completed when no one watched. Practice finished when no one praised. Effort sustained when no one noticed. That's where real confidence is forged. Not in applause. In repetition. It's not about attention. It's about accumulation. It's not about recognition. It's about repetition. It's not about validation. It's about discipline. Discipline is private. Ego is public. Ego wants witnesses. Discipline requires none. The strongest individuals you will ever meet often look ordinary. They don't announce themselves. They don't advertise themselves. They don't perform for attention. They move quietly. But their results speak loudly. Why? Because they trained without applause. They built when nobody cared. They improved when nobody noticed. They repeated when nobody rewarded. That's the formula. You want unshakable confidence? Stop asking what people think. Start measuring what you've done. Track effort. Track progress. Track consistency. Those numbers matter. Opinions don't. Opinions change with mood. Progress changes with work. So measure work. Every day, ask yourself, did I improve? Did I practice? Did I execute? Not, did they like me? Did they praise me? Did they approve of me? Those questions weaken you. Progress questions strengthen you. You have a choice. Validation or growth. Approval or ability. Applause or advancement. Choose advancement. Because the world respects results more than opinions. Always. Quiet competence beats loud approval every time. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing validation, it often starts chasing you. Why? Because independence is rare. And rarity attracts attention. People notice those who don't need to be noticed. They trust those who don't beg to be trusted. They respect those who don't demand respect. That's the silent power of self-respect. It doesn't ask. It radiates. Approval is rented confidence. Self-respect is owned power. Repeat it until it becomes instinct. Approval is rented confidence. Self-respect is owned power. When you internalize that truth, something changes. You stop performing. You start progressing. You stop reacting. You start calculating. You stop chasing approval. You start commanding respect. not by force, by discipline. And discipline is quiet. You released the need for applause. You broke the addiction to approval. You built confidence no one can take from you. That is how you silence ego and strengthen the mind. Now that you no longer need validation, it's time to master the tool that protects your power in every conversation, every conflict, and every environment. Chapter 3. Train your mouth to obey your mind. Your mouth is faster than your discipline. That's the problem. Most people speak before they think, react before they analyze, interrupt before they understand. They call it honesty. They call it confidence. They call it being real. It's none of those. It's impulsiveness. And impulsiveness is mental weakness made audible. Listen closely. The fastest way to expose an undisciplined mind is to let it talk. Words reveal control. Tone reveals stability. Timing reveals intelligence. You can measure a person's mental strength by how long they can remain silent when emotion is pushing them to speak. That's the test. You have a choice. Let emotion move your mouth, or let discipline command it. One leads to regret. The other leads to power. Because speech is not neutral. Speech is currency. Every word you release spends authority. Spend too much, and you go bankrupt. That's why controlled individuals speak carefully. Not slowly. Carefully. They choose words the way a strategist chooses moves. Deliberate. Efficient. Precise. That's the key. Talking less is not about shyness. It's about command. Weak minds blur thoughts into speech. Strong minds filter thoughts before sound. That filter is discipline. Without it, your mouth becomes a weapon pointed at your own credibility. Think about arguments. The first person to lose emotional control usually loses the exchange. Not because they're wrong. Because they're loud. Volume signals instability. Urgency signals insecurity. Over-explaining signals doubt. Calm signals authority. Silence signals control. Controlled people don't rush to respond. They pause. They watch. They evaluate. That pause is not empty. It's calculation. It's observation. It's power gathering itself before release. Impulsive people can't tolerate that pause. Silence makes them uncomfortable. So they fill it. They talk. They ramble. They reveal. And every extra word gives away information. Strategic silence does the opposite. It makes others reveal themselves while you reveal nothing. Negotiators use this. Leaders use this. Interrogators use this. High-level performers in every field use this. They understand a principle most people never learn. Speak less. Observe more. Win sooner. Repeat it. Speak less. Observe more. Win sooner. Silence pressures the other person. Humans are uncomfortable with conversational gaps. When silence appears, most rush to fill it. And when they fill it, they expose motives, insecurities, and intentions. You don't need their permission to stay silent. Silence is your right. Silence is your shield. Silence is your advantage. But ego hates silence. Ego wants to be heard. Ego wants to be noticed. Ego wants to dominate the conversation. So it pushes you to speak, to interrupt, to correct, to prove. And every time you obey that impulse, ego wins and discipline loses. It's not about expression. It's about restraint. It's not about talking. It's about timing. It's not about volume. It's about precision. Precision beats noise. Always. Imagine two people in a disagreement. One talks constantly, defends every point, fills every pause. The other speaks briefly, calmly, then stops. Who seems more confident? The quiet one. Every time. Why? Because restraint signals certainty. Desperation signals doubt. You have a choice. Chase dominance through volume, or command respect through control. Control always lasts longer. Training your mouth is a daily practice, not theory. Practice. You must condition it the same way athletes condition muscles. Through repetition. Through awareness. Through correction. Here's how. First, slow your response time. When someone speaks to you, wait 1 second before replying. Just one. That single second interrupts impulsiveness. That second forces thought. That second builds control. Second, shorten your answers. Most people use 10 sentences where 1 would do. Cut the excess. Remove filler. Say what matters. Stop. Silence after speaking reinforces authority. It signals you said exactly what you meant. Nothing more. Nothing less. Third, stop interrupting. Interrupting is insecurity disguised as enthusiasm. It says, "My thoughts matter more than yours." Disciplined listeners don't interrupt. They absorb. They analyze. They respond only after understanding. That's the key. Understanding first. Speaking second. Fourth, detach from the urge to win conversations. Conversations are not battles. They are information exchanges. If you treat every dialogue like a competition, you will talk too much trying to dominate. If you treat it like data collection, you will listen more and learn more. Learners grow. Talkers stall. It's not about sounding smart. It's about becoming sharp. It's not about impressing them. It's about improving you. It's not about being heard. It's about being effective. Remember this rule. The more you talk, the less people listen. The less you talk, the more they lean in. Scarcity creates value. Words are no different. Over-talking is inflation. Silence is scarcity. And scarcity increases worth. Watch highly respected individuals. They rarely rush to speak. They let others go first. They gather information. They measure tone. They observe reactions. By the time they speak, they already understand the room. That's power. Meanwhile, impulsive talkers reveal everything instantly. Their opinions. Their insecurities. Their biases. Their emotional triggers. They hand over their psychological blueprint within minutes. And once someone has your blueprint, they can predict you. Once they can predict you, they can control you. You don't want to be predictable. You want to be precise. Precision requires silence. Silence requires discipline. Discipline requires choice. You have a choice. React instantly, or respond intentionally. Blurt impulsively, or speak strategically. Reveal everything, or reveal only what serves you. Choose strategy. Because strategic speech multiplies influence. Careless speech multiplies problems. Every unnecessary word risks misunderstanding. Every impulsive sentence risks regret. Every emotional reaction risks exposure. Measured words eliminate those risks. That's why the strongest communicators are often the quietest. They don't waste language. They deploy it. When they speak, people listen. Not because they're loud. Because they're rare. Rare voices carry weight. Common noise fades. Speak less. Observe more. Win sooner. Lock it into your behavior. Not just your memory. Practice it today. In your next conversation, say less than you want to. Pause longer than feels comfortable. Listen more than usual. Watch what happens. You'll notice details others miss. You'll sense emotions others overlook. You'll understand motives others never detect. Why? Because you stopped performing and started observing. Observation is silent intelligence. And intelligence always defeats impulsiveness. You trained your mouth to wait for your mind. You replaced reaction with restraint. You turned silence into strength. That is how authority is built without noise and power is gained without force. Now that you control your words, it's time to control something even more dangerous: your reactions. Chapter 4: Reject the urge to react. Reaction is easy. Restraint is rare. Anyone can react. Animals react. Children react. Undisciplined adults react. Reaction requires no training, no awareness, no strength. It's automatic, instinctive, immediate. That's why most people live their entire lives reacting. Someone criticizes them. They snap back. Someone insults them. They raise their voice. Someone doubts them. They defend themselves. They think they're being strong. They think they're standing up for themselves. They think they're asserting dominance. They're not. They're surrendering control. Understand this principle and burn it into your mind. Whoever controls your reaction controls you. If someone can make you angry, they own your emotions. If someone can make you defensive, they own your confidence. If someone can provoke you, they own your behavior. That's the key. Control is not about what you say. Control is about what you refuse to react to. You have a choice. React instantly or respond deliberately. One is instinct. The other is power. Reaction is instinct. Restraint is strength. Instinct belongs to survival. Strength belongs to discipline. Most people never learn the difference. They feel something, and they express it immediately. Anger comes, they show it. Frustration comes, they display it. Jealousy comes, they reveal it. They think expression equals honesty. They think suppression equals weakness. Wrong. Uncontrolled expression is not honesty. It's exposure. It exposes your triggers. It exposes your insecurities. It exposes your limits. And once someone sees your limits, they know exactly where to push. That's why emotional people are predictable. Predictable people are controllable. Controllable people are powerless. Calm people are different. Calm people cannot be baited, cannot be rushed, cannot be manipulated. Not because they lack emotion, because they command it. It's not about feeling less. It's about controlling more. That distinction changes everything. Imagine two individuals facing criticism. One reacts instantly. Voice rises. Pulse spikes. Words spill out. The other pauses. Breath slows. Face stays neutral. Silence holds. Who has power? Always the calm one. Because calmness keeps control internal. Reactivity hands control away. You have a choice. Give your control away, or guard it like a weapon. Most people hand it out for free. A stranger's opinion ruins their day. A comment online ruins their mood. A small inconvenience ruins their focus. That's not bad luck. That's bad discipline. External events should not dictate internal states. But for most people they do. Their emotions rise and fall with circumstances. Their mindset shifts with opinions. Their stability depends on comfort. That is fragility. Strength is the opposite. Strength is stability under pressure. Stability under insult. Stability under uncertainty. And stability is built in the gap. The gap between stimulus and response. That gap is where your power lives. When something happens, there is a moment before you react. It may be small. A second. Half a second. But it exists. Inside that gap is your freedom. Your choice. Your control. Undisciplined people erase that gap. Disciplined people expand it. That's the key. Expanding the gap gives your mind time to lead instead of your emotion. Time to analyze instead of react. Time to choose instead of obey. Because reaction is obedience. Response is authority. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their permission to think before you act. Pausing is not weakness. Pausing is command. Train it. When provoked, breathe once before speaking. When insulted, count to 3 before replying. When pressured, delay your answer. These are not small habits. They are psychological armor. Armor makes you hard to penetrate, hard to manipulate, hard to control. And people notice. Provokers look for easy targets. They look for quick tempers. Quick tempers mean quick reactions. Quick reactions mean easy control. When they meet someone calm, they hesitate. When they meet someone unreactive, they retreat. Why? Because they lost their leverage. They can't pull your strings if you don't react. Whoever controls your reaction controls you. So take that control back. It's not about anger. It's about authority. It's not about emotion. It's about mastery. It's not about suppression. It's about discipline. Discipline is choosing your response instead of obeying your impulse. Most impulses are wrong. Not evil. Not stupid. Just primitive. They belong to older parts of your brain designed for survival, not success. Those impulses helped your ancestors escape danger. But in modern life, they create unnecessary conflict, damaged relationships, and lost opportunities. Discipline upgrades your behavior from primitive to precise. Precision wins where impulse fails. Think of a skilled fighter. They don't swing wildly when provoked. They stay composed. They measure distance. They wait for the right moment. Their calmness is not hesitation. It's calculation. That same principle applies everywhere. Business, relationships, negotiations, leadership. The person who stays calm sees clearly. The person who reacts quickly sees narrowly. Narrow vision leads to bad decisions. Calm vision leads to correct ones. You have a choice. Short-term emotional relief or long-term strategic power. Reaction gives relief. Restraint gives results. Choose results. Because results build confidence. Confidence builds stability. Stability builds authority. And authority cannot be shaken by small provocations. Small minds provoke. Strong minds ignore. Ignoring is not surrender. Ignoring is selection. You are selecting what deserves your energy. Not everything does. In fact, most things don't. Not every insult deserves a reply. Not every opinion deserves attention. Not every challenge deserves engagement. Disciplined individuals understand this. They conserve energy for what matters. They refuse to waste it on what doesn't. Energy is finite. Spend it wisely. Every reaction costs energy. Every emotional spike drains focus. Every impulsive response taxes your clarity. Waste enough energy reacting, and you'll have none left for building. Builders don't react. Builders concentrate. That's the key. Your goal is not to win emotional battles. Your goal is to win real ones. The argument is not the objective. The outcome is. The insult is not the obstacle. The distraction is. The provocation is not the threat. Your reaction is. Control the reaction, and you remove the threat. You trained your words. Now you train your emotions. You widened the gap. You slowed the impulse. You kept control where it belongs, inside. That is how you silence ego. That is how you strengthen the mind. Because a mind that cannot be provoked cannot be controlled. And once you cannot be controlled, you become dangerous in the best possible way. Focused, calm, and unstoppable. You mastered your reactions. Now it's time to master what feeds them in the first place. Chapter 5. Starve the ego, feed the mind. Ego is loud. Intelligence is quiet. Ego announces. Intelligence observes. Ego compares. Intelligence studies. Ego wants to be seen as smart. Intelligence wants to become smarter. That difference decides your future. Most people feed their ego every day without realizing it. They compare constantly. They compare income, appearance, status, followers, recognition. They measure themselves against others like their worth is a scoreboard. Comparison feels natural. But natural does not mean useful. Comparison drains. Curiosity fuels. Burn that into your thinking. Comparison drains. Curiosity fuels. When you compare, your attention leaves your growth and enters someone else's life. Your focus shifts outward. Your energy leaks. Instead of asking, "How do I improve?" you start asking, "Why am I not them?" That question poisons progress. You have a choice. Compare or learn. One weakens you. The other sharpens you. Ego loves comparison because comparison creates drama. Drama creates emotion. Emotion creates noise. And noise distracts you from discipline. Discipline hates comparison. Discipline cares about improvement. Quiet, measurable, personal improvement. It's not about being better than them. It's about being better than yesterday. It's not about winning the comparison. It's about winning the practice. It's not about ranking. It's about refining. That's the key. Ego says, "Look at me." Intelligence says, "Teach me." The smartest individuals you will ever meet share one trait. They ask questions. Constantly. Not to impress. To understand. They are not afraid to look ignorant for a moment because they know ignorance admitted is ignorance reduced. Ego cannot tolerate that. Ego hates questions. Questions admit you don't know. Ego wants certainty. Even false certainty. Especially false certainty. Why? Because certainty looks strong. But looking strong is not the same as being strong. Real strength is accuracy. Accuracy requires learning. Learning requires curiosity. Curiosity requires humility. Humility starves ego. That's why ego fights it. Ego would rather be wrong and appear right than be corrected and appear mistaken. Intelligence does the opposite. Intelligence would rather be corrected and improve than pretend and stagnate. You have a choice. Protect your image or sharpen your mind. One traps you. The other transforms you. Protecting your image means defending what you already know. Sharpening your mind means expanding what you don't. One is maintenance. The other is growth. Growth always demands humility, because every new level of skill begins with ignorance. Every mastery begins with confusion. Every expert was once clueless. The difference is they accepted it. They didn't hide it. They didn't deny it. They used it. They asked questions others were too proud to ask. They studied details others were too bored to notice. They practiced fundamentals others were too arrogant to repeat. That's why they improved. Ego talks. Intelligence listens. Repeat it until it becomes instinct. Ego talks. Intelligence listens. Talking feels powerful. Listening creates power. When you talk, you repeat what you already know. When you listen, you gain what you didn't. Talking keeps you where you are. Listening moves you forward. And yet most people talk too much. Not because they have more to say. Because they want to appear knowledgeable. They confuse speaking with competence. But words are not proof. Skill is proof. That's the key. If you want to grow fast, talk less and ask more. Ask precise questions. Ask uncomfortable questions. Ask questions that expose your gaps. Because gaps exposed can be closed. Gaps hidden stay permanent. You don't need their permission to learn. You don't need their permission to ask. You don't need their permission to improve. Permission is ego's disguise for fear. Fear of looking inexperienced. Fear of looking uninformed. Fear of looking behind. Discard that fear. Looking inexperienced is temporary. Staying inexperienced is permanent. So replace comparison with curiosity. Instead of asking, "Why are they ahead?" ask, "What do they know that I don't?" Instead of asking, "Why am I behind?" ask, "What skill am I missing?" Instead of asking, "Why them?" ask, "What can I learn?" Those questions empower you. Comparison questions weaken you. Because comparison focuses on outcomes. Curiosity focuses on process. Outcomes are distant. Process is immediate. You can't control outcomes directly. You can control process instantly. Control what you can. That's discipline. It's not about envy. It's about education. It's not about jealousy. It's about study. It's not about insecurity. It's about improvement. Watch disciplined learners. They don't resent excellence. They analyze it. They don't feel threatened by skill. They dissect it. They don't avoid talented people. They move closer to them. Why? Because proximity accelerates growth. Ego avoids people who are better. Intelligence seeks them out. Ego wants comfort. Intelligence wants expansion. Expansion is uncomfortable. Always. Learning stretches your identity. It forces you to admit limits. It demands patience. It requires repetition. Ego hates all of that. Ego wants instant superiority. But instant superiority is an illusion. Real superiority is earned slowly, quietly, repeatedly. You have a choice. Chase the illusion or build the reality. Build the reality. Because reality cannot collapse under pressure. Illusion always does. Here's a practical rule. Every day, identify one thing you don't understand. Then study it until you do. One concept. One skill. One detail. Small daily learning compounds into massive long-term advantage. Most people won't do this. Their ego won't allow it. They'd rather scroll than study. Rather compare than practice. Rather talk than train. That's why most people stay average. Average is not a talent problem. Average is a discipline problem. Discipline chooses growth over pride. Discipline chooses curiosity over comparison. Discipline chooses listening over speaking. And discipline always wins eventually. Because learning compounds. Skill compounds. Knowledge compounds. Ego doesn't compound. Ego inflates. And inflated things burst under pressure. So starve it. Starve ego of comparison. Starve ego of attention. Starve ego of validation. Feed your mind instead. Feed it questions. Feed it study. Feed it observation. Feed it practice. What you feed grows. Feed ego, and insecurity grows. Feed the mind, and capability grows. Capability creates confidence that cannot be shaken. Because it isn't based on opinion. It's based on evidence. Evidence you built. Evidence you earned. Evidence no one can take from you. That is real power. You silenced comparison. You activated curiosity. You chose learning over looking impressive. That is how ego shrinks and intellect expands. That is how the mind becomes sharper, calmer, stronger. And once your mind grows stronger than your ego, something interesting happens. You stop needing recognition. You stop needing credit. You stop needing attention, which gives you a powerful advantage most people overlook. Chapter 6. Embrace being underestimated. Most people are terrified of being underestimated. They want recognition immediately, respect instantly, status visibly. They want others to see their value before they've even proven it. They crave acknowledgement like oxygen. That craving weakens them, because when you need recognition, you become predictable. When you need praise, you become controllable. When you need people to see your worth, you start performing instead of preparing. Preparation builds power. Performance drains it. You have a choice. Chase recognition or build capability. One feeds ego. The other builds dominance. Being underestimated is not a disadvantage. It is a strategic advantage. When people underestimate you, they relax. They lower their guard. They assume you're harmless, average, non-threatening. They stop watching closely. They stop analyzing you. They stop preparing for you. That's the key. Relaxed opponents make mistakes. Alert opponents don't. Underestimation removes pressure from you and places it on them later, when it's too late for them to adjust. But ego hates being underestimated. Ego wants validation now. Ego wants acknowledgement now. Ego wants status now. So ego pushes you to prove yourself early. That is a trap. Because proving yourself early reveals your strategy. It exposes your abilities. It shows your level before the real moment arrives. And once people know your level, they prepare for it. Preparation neutralizes advantage. Quiet individuals understand this. They don't rush to display skill. They don't advertise capability. They don't announce ambition. They build silently. They practice privately. They sharpen without spectacle. Why? Because invisible preparation creates undeniable performance. Repeat that. Invisible preparation creates undeniable performance. History, competition, business, leadership, sports, every domain confirms it. The individuals who shock the world are rarely the loudest beforehand. They're the quiet workers no one studied. The focused grinders no one tracked. The disciplined builders no one noticed. While others were talking, they were training. While others were posting, they were practicing. While others were boasting, they were building. It's not about attention. It's about accumulation. Accumulation happens in private. Most people never accumulate enough skill to become dangerous because they waste energy trying to look impressive. They want the appearance of mastery without the process of mastery. But appearance fades under pressure. Preparation doesn't. Pressure is the truth teller. Pressure exposes what's real and what's fake. And when pressure arrives, only preparation survives. You don't need their permission to prepare quietly. You don't need their permission to improve privately. You don't need their permission to build without announcing it. Silence is your advantage. Because silence hides progress. And hidden progress multiplies impact. Imagine two competitors. One talks constantly about what they're going to do. Announces plans. Broadcasts goals. Displays confidence loudly. The other says little. Works quietly. Reveals nothing. When the moment of performance arrives, who shocks the room? Always the quiet one. Why? Because expectation shapes perception. If people expect little from you, even strong performance feels shocking. If they expect greatness from you, even strong performance feels normal. That's leverage. Lower expectations increase impact. Higher expectations dilute it. So stop fighting to raise expectations early. Let them stay low while your ability rises high. You have a choice. Demand recognition now, or command respect later. Immediate recognition is cheap. Earned respect is rare. Choose rare, because rare is powerful. It's not about being overlooked. It's about being underestimated. Those are different. Being overlooked means ignored permanently. Being underestimated means ignored temporarily. Temporarily ignored is perfect positioning. It gives you space. Space to learn. Space to experiment. Space to fail privately. Space to refine without judgment. Public attention shrinks that space. Attention brings scrutiny. Scrutiny brings pressure. Pressure exposes unfinished skill. Unfinished skill should stay hidden. Masters understand timing. They reveal ability only when it matters. Not before. Not randomly. Not emotionally. Strategically. That's discipline. It's not about insecurity. It's about intelligence. It's not about hiding. It's about timing. It's not about fear. It's about strategy. Strategy beats ego every time. Ego wants applause during practice. Strategy waits for applause after execution. Look at elite performers across fields. Many intentionally appear ordinary. They dress simply, speak calmly, act modestly. They don't radiate superiority. They radiate control. Because superiority attracts challenge. Control avoids it until necessary. Avoiding unnecessary challenge conserves energy. Conserved energy multiplies performance. Energy is a weapon. Don't waste it trying to impress spectators who don't matter. Impress results instead. Results speak louder than claims. Always. Claims invite doubt. Results eliminate it. That's why disciplined individuals focus on output, not image. They refine skill, not persona. They sharpen execution, not reputation. Reputation built before results is fragile. Reputation built after results is unbreakable. You have a choice. Build reputation first, or build skill first. One is illusion. The other is foundation. Foundations hold weight. Illusions collapse under it. The world respects what it cannot deny. And results cannot be denied. So become undeniable. Train when no one sees. Improve when no one praises. Practice when no one claps. That's where advantage is built. Not in public. In private. Because private discipline creates public dominance. And dominance doesn't need announcements. The most dangerous individual in any environment is the one no one prepared for. The one dismissed. The one underestimated. The one ignored until execution begins. That individual controls the outcome. You can be that individual. But only if you silence the urge to prove yourself prematurely. Only if you resist the temptation to display skill too early. Only if you accept being underestimated without trying to correct it. That restraint is strength. Weak people demand recognition. Strong people earn revelation. Let them underestimate you. Let them misjudge you. Let them assume you're average. Their assumptions are not your limitations. Their perception is not your reality. You don't need their permission to grow beyond their expectations. Remember this: surprise is power. Predictability is weakness. If everyone knows your level, you lose surprise. If no one knows your level, you control the moment of revelation. Control the moment, and you control the impact. Invisible preparation creates undeniable performance. Lock it in. Invisible preparation creates undeniable performance. You stopped chasing attention. You embraced being underestimated. You chose preparation over performance. That is how silent minds build unstoppable force. That is how ego fades and capability rises. Now that you understand the power of hidden growth, it's time to refine the quality of that growth itself. Chapter 7. Replace pride with precision. Pride feels strong. Precision is strong. Pride looks confident. Precision produces results. Most people confuse the two. They think stubbornness is strength. They think refusing correction is confidence. They think defending mistakes is dignity. It isn't. It's ego wearing armor. Pride resists correction. Precision demands it. That sentence alone can separate amateurs from masters. Amateurs protect their image. Masters improve their execution. Amateurs repeat errors to avoid embarrassment. Masters expose errors to eliminate them. You have a choice. Protect your pride, or perfect your craft. One keeps you comfortable. The other makes you formidable. Comfort never created mastery. Precision always did. Precision is ruthless. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care about your intentions. It cares about accuracy. It cares about detail. It cares about results. That's the key. Precision asks only one question. Is it correct? Not impressive. Not popular. Not praised. Correct. Most people never reach high levels of performance because they refuse to ask that question honestly. They ask softer questions. Easier questions. Ego-friendly questions. Is this good enough? Will people like this? Does this look okay? Those questions protect pride. They don't build excellence. Precision asks harder questions. Where is the flaw? What can be tighter? What can be improved? Hard questions produce hard results. Pride hates hard questions because hard questions expose imperfection. Precision loves hard questions because they reveal opportunity. It's not about criticism. It's about calibration. It's not about judgment. It's about adjustment. It's not about flawlessness. It's about refinement. Refinement is the path to mastery. Look at elite professionals in any field. Musicians replay notes others think are perfect. Athletes review footage others think is flawless. Engineers revise designs others think are complete. Surgeons practice techniques others think are routine. Why? Because they see what average eyes miss. They notice the extra millimeter, the slight delay, the minor imbalance, the subtle inefficiency, the tiny inconsistency. Small flaws create big limitations. Average performers ignore small flaws. Elite performers hunt them. That hunt is discipline. You don't need their permission to refine your work. You don't need their permission to adjust your method. You don't need their permission to improve beyond what looks good enough. Good enough is the enemy of great. Most people stop at good enough because pride tells them they've already done well. Pride says, that's fine. Precision says, that can be better. Better always exists. The pursuit of better is what separates professionals from participants. Participants want completion. Professionals want correction. Completion ends effort. Correction continues growth. You have a choice. Finish quickly or refine relentlessly. One satisfies ego. The other sharpens skill. Skill is built through self-editing. Self-editing is the discipline of reviewing your own actions objectively. Not emotionally. Objectively. You step back. You analyze. You adjust. Then you repeat. Repeat enough, and improvement becomes inevitable. But self-editing requires honesty. Brutal honesty. You must see your mistakes without defending them. You must acknowledge weakness without explaining it away. You must accept flaws without resenting their discovery. That is rare. Most people explain their mistakes. Few people eliminate them. Explaining protects pride. Eliminating builds precision. Precision destroys mistakes. Pride protects them. Repeat it. Pride protects mistakes. Precision destroys them. When someone corrects you, watch your first reaction. If you feel defensive, pride is speaking. If you feel curious, discipline is speaking. Listen to discipline. Because correction is not an attack. Correction is information. Information is improvement waiting to happen. Reject correction, and you reject improvement. Accept correction, and you accelerate growth. It's not about being right. It's about getting better. Getting better requires repetition with adjustment. Not repetition alone. Repeating the same mistake does not create skill. Adjusting the mistake does. That adjustment is precision. Precision lives in details. Details most people ignore. Details most people rush past. Details most people think don't matter. They do. Details determine outcome. A single misplaced word can ruin a negotiation. A single inch can change a competition. A single second can decide a result. A single overlooked step can collapse a system. Small details. Massive consequences. That's why disciplined individuals slow down where others rush. They check what others assume. They measure what others guess. They refine what others release. Speed impresses. Precision dominates. You have a choice. Move fast to look skilled, or move carefully to become skilled. One creates appearance. The other creates ability. Ability lasts. Appearance fades. And here's the truth pride doesn't want you to hear. The higher you rise, the more precision matters. At low levels, small mistakes go unnoticed. At high levels, small mistakes decide everything. Excellence is a game of millimeters. That's the key. If you want elite results, you must adopt elite standards. Elite standards demand constant refinement. Constant refinement demands humility. Humility silences pride. Silencing pride frees you to improve. Improvement compounds. Daily refinement becomes weekly advantage. Weekly advantage becomes yearly dominance. And dominance, when built on precision, cannot be shaken. Because precision is stable. Pride is fragile. Pride collapses under pressure. Precision performs under pressure. Pressure doesn't create flaws. It reveals them. If you trained with precision, pressure reveals strength. If you trained with pride, pressure reveals weakness. Train for revelation. That means reviewing your work daily. Analyzing your decisions. Studying your outcomes. Asking what worked, what failed, and why. Not occasionally. Consistently. Consistency builds awareness. Awareness builds accuracy. Accuracy builds mastery. Mastery is not loud. It is exact. Exact movements. Exact words. Exact timing. Exact decisions. Exactness is power. And exactness is earned through discipline, not ego. It's not about talent. It's about adjustment. It's not about perfection. It's about precision. It's not about pride. It's about progress. Progress belongs to those willing to see themselves clearly. So look closely. Where are you rushing? Where are you assuming? Where are you defending instead of refining? Find those places. Fix them. Repeat. Because the moment you replace pride with precision is the moment your growth accelerates beyond average. You stopped defending mistakes. You started correcting them. You stopped protecting your image. You started sharpening your ability. That is how ego weakens and discipline strengthens. That is how ordinary effort becomes elite execution. Now that you've mastered precision, there's another discipline that multiplies its power even further. Timing. Chapter 8. Learn the discipline of delayed response. Speed is seductive. Speed feels powerful. Speed feels dominant. But speed is often weakness wearing a costume. Most people react. Few people respond. That difference decides who leads and who follows. That's the key. An immediate reply is emotional. A delayed reply is intentional. One is reflex. The other is command. One is noise. The other is signal. You have a choice. When criticism hits you, you can fire back instantly. That's instinct. That's ego. That's undisciplined. Or you can pause. Breathe once. Think twice. Speak once. That's control. That's power. That's discipline. Delay is not weakness. Delay is control. Watch the masters of any field. Elite negotiators. Elite athletes. Elite commanders. They pause. Not because they're confused. Because they're calculating. They let silence do work. They let tension build. They let the other side reveal more than intended. Amateurs rush to fill silence. Professionals weaponize it. You don't need their permission to take your time. The world trains you to respond instantly. Notifications buzz. Messages demand. Feeds refresh. Everyone expects you now. But urgency is rarely real. Urgency is usually manufactured pressure. And pressure is the enemy of precision. It's not about speed, it's about discipline. A rushed answer is a discounted answer. A rushed decision is a weakened decision. A rushed reaction is a revealed vulnerability. When you answer too quickly, you expose your emotions. When you answer deliberately, you display authority. Authority is quiet. Authority is measured. Authority is never in a hurry. You have a choice. Consider conflict. Someone challenges you, accuses you, insults you. Your pulse spikes. Your mind floods with replies, each one sharper than the last. You want to win immediately. You want the last word. You want dominance. Stop. That urge is pride. Pride is loud. Discipline is quiet. Pride reacts. Discipline evaluates. Delay is not weakness. Delay is control. Silence in that moment does three things. It calms your nervous system. It unsettles your opponent. It creates space for strategy. That space is your advantage. That space is your edge. That space is where winners live. Most people cannot tolerate silence. They rush to escape it. They talk themselves into mistakes. They explain too much. They reveal too much. They surrender leverage they didn't even know they had. Not you. You wait. That's the key. Leaders understand timing. Timing is force multiplied. A decision made too early is fragile. A decision made too late is useless. But a decision made at the exact right moment is unstoppable. Precision requires patience. Patience requires discipline. Discipline requires choice. You have a choice. Delay your reply to emails. Delay your reaction to criticism. Delay your decision when emotions are high. Not forever. Just long enough for clarity to replace impulse. Because impulse is expensive. Impulse costs relationships. Impulse costs opportunities. Impulse costs reputations. Every impulsive reaction is a receipt for a mistake you didn't have to buy. It's not about emotion, it's about discipline. Professionals rehearse their responses before they ever need them. They don't improvise under pressure. They prepare in calm. They script their principles. They define their standards. So when the moment arrives, they don't react emotionally. They execute intentionally. Preparation slows time. When you are prepared, seconds feel longer. Options appear. Patterns emerge. You see angles others miss. That's why trained minds look calm in chaos. They aren't guessing. They're selecting. Delay is not weakness. Delay is control. Understand this truth. The person who controls the pace controls the outcome. If someone forces you to answer immediately, they control you. If you decide when you answer, you control the situation. That's power. So practice micro-delays. When asked a question, pause 2 seconds. When challenged, pause 5. When angry, pause until calm. Train this like a muscle, because it is one. Neural discipline, emotional regulation, cognitive command. At first it feels unnatural. Your instincts will scream, speak now, defend now, react now. Ignore them. Instinct is ancient software. Discipline is upgraded code. You don't need their permission to pause. Watch interviews with high-level performers. Notice the silence before they speak. Notice the measured cadence. Notice the lack of rush. That's not personality. That's training. That's deliberate composure. Composure is a competitive advantage. Fast talkers impress amateurs. Calm thinkers impress decision-makers. And decision-makers control doors. You have a choice. In negotiations, the first person to rush loses leverage. In arguments, the first person to lose composure loses authority. In crises, the first person to panic loses leadership. Delay your reaction and you gain information. Information is leverage. Leverage is advantage. Advantage wins. That's the key. Delay is not weakness. Delay is control. Burn that into your mind. Repeat it until it replaces your reflex to react. Because once you master response timing, you master perception. And perception shapes reality. People will start describing you differently. Calm, calculated, thoughtful, strategic. They won't see the training behind it. They'll just feel the effect. That's fine. Results don't need explanation. It's not about silence, it's about discipline. Discipline is choosing response over reaction. Discipline is choosing intention over impulse. Discipline is choosing power over pride. You are not here to be the fastest responder. You are here to be the most effective decision-maker. Speed impresses crowds. Precision builds empires. You have a choice. The next time pressure demands instant action, slow down. The next time emotion demands instant words, stay quiet. The next time ego demands instant defense, observe instead. Delay. Think. Decide. Then act. Because controlled timing is controlled power. Controlled power is disciplined power. And disciplined power is exactly what this entire journey is about. You learn to withstand judgment. You learn to embrace being underestimated. You learn to replace pride with precision. Now you've learned to command time itself through your responses. Master your reactions, and you master your life. But reaction is only one battlefield. The next one is deeper, harder, quieter. You controlled your timing. Now you must control your environment. Chapter 9. Make silence your strategy. Silence is powerful. Most people underestimate it. They confuse noise with strength. They confuse volume with influence. They think the louder they are, the more control they have. That's a trap. Noise is a distraction. Noise is exposure. Noise is weakness pretending to be dominance. True dominance is quiet. True influence is subtle. True power is unseen until it hits. You have a choice. Fill every space with words, or let your silence speak for you. One signals insecurity. The other signals command. One burns energy. The other preserves it. Silence creates mystery. When you stop over-explaining, people start filling the gaps themselves. They guess your intentions. They imagine your power. They reveal their own weaknesses. That's leverage. Leverage doesn't come from talking. It comes from creating the space where others must respond. The quieter person in a room controls the tempo. Think about it. Conversations, negotiations, arguments. Whoever speaks less often sets the emotional rhythm. The loud person reacts. The quiet person decides. The quiet person tests. The quiet person draws out information without giving any away. That's strategy. That's control. That's discipline. Silence forces others to fill the space. And when they fill it, they reveal themselves. Their emotions. Their plans. Their insecurities. Their assumptions. You don't need to ask. They show you. They hand you insight on a silver platter. Most people are terrified of silence. They think it's awkward. They panic. They fill every second with noise. They explain too much. They defend too early. They expose themselves. That's predictable. That's exploitable. You have a choice. Fill the silence with noise, or let the silence work for you. One feeds ego. The other builds advantage. Let's make this practical. When someone criticizes you, stop. Don't defend immediately. Observe. Notice tone. Notice word choice. Notice hesitation. Let your silence sit in the room. People dislike it. They instinctively respond. And when they respond, you learn. You see motives. You see fear. You see intention. That's intelligence in action. When negotiating, speak only when it adds value. Not when it fills time. Not when it tries to impress. Strategic silence forces concessions without confrontation. Timing your words after the silence carries far more weight than words said too quickly. In conflict, the quieter person dictates the emotional tempo. Think about disputes you've had. Who escalated first? Who lost composure? Who gave away leverage? Usually, it's the one who feels compelled to fill the gap with words. Silence isn't absence. Silence is positioning. Silence is patience. Silence is power waiting to strike at the exact moment. Most people cannot tolerate silence because it makes them uncomfortable. That discomfort is your opportunity. Let it sit. Let it stretch. Let them speak to escape the tension. What they reveal will inform your strategy. What they reveal will tell you what they value. What they reveal will tell you what they fear. Silence also protects your mind. Every word you speak is a footprint. Every sentence you release can be used against you. Every reaction you verbalize can become evidence of weakness. When you limit speech, you limit exposure. You conserve energy. You protect your authority. Silence is also a tool for mental clarity. The quieter you are, the more you can think. The more you can observe. The more you can anticipate. And anticipation is dominance. Dominance comes from seeing what others miss and acting when they cannot. It's not about being rude. It's not about being cold. It's about discipline. It's about intentionality. You don't speak to impress. You speak to impact. And impact comes from precision, not volume. You have a choice. Rush to fill the air with words, or let silence reveal truths others cannot see. One signals fear. The other signals mastery. One destroys advantage. The other multiplies it. Repetition is necessary. This is a discipline you must train like a muscle. Every meeting, every conversation, every encounter. Practice restraint. Notice discomfort in others. Notice what they reveal. And notice how much control you feel when you do nothing. Silence also amplifies authority. People respect those who don't need to prove themselves verbally. They follow those who command without begging. They trust those who act without shouting. Loudness dissolves authority. Silence reinforces it. In leadership, silence is a tactical tool. When presenting ideas, pause after key points. Let your team think. Let the weight of your words land. When evaluating performance, listen more than you speak. When delivering decisions, let pauses underline the significance. Silence emphasizes everything words cannot. Remember this phrase: silence forces others to fill the space and reveal themselves. Burn it into your mind. Repeat it until reflex. It is not a concept. It is a weapon. It is a strategy. You don't need their permission to stay quiet. You don't need approval to let silence lead. You don't need validation to remain calm while others react. Silence is your choice. Discipline makes it powerful. Practice makes it habitual. Many people talk to appear in control. Few stay silent to actually be in control. That difference separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. That difference determines outcomes that last. That difference builds unshakable authority. Strategic silence also rewires your relationships. People learn to anticipate your words. They weigh their statements. They respect your timing. They fear overstepping. They respect the presence you maintain without saying a word. That's influence. That's leverage. That's mastery in action. Silence is not absence. Silence is attention concentrated. Silence is focus incarnate. Silence is strength hidden. Noise is often a sign of weakness. Noise signals urgency where there should be none. Noise signals exposure where there should be protection. You have a choice. Contribute to noise, or harness silence. One drains. The other multiplies. One reveals too much. The other reveals just enough. One is emotional. The other is strategic. Control the sound. Control the space. Control the room. And you control the perception of power. Because people interpret restraint as confidence. They interpret calm as competence. They interpret quiet as authority. Let the loud rush forward. Let them exhaust themselves. Let them reveal everything while you observe and calculate. Let them act for recognition while you act for results. That is how discipline wins where ego fails. You've learned to delay responses. Now take it further. Make silence your default tool. Make silence your strategy. Let others do the talking. Let them reveal. Let them exhaust themselves. Let them expose weakness. Let them chase noise while you conserve energy. Let them fight impulse while you execute with control. Because silence is the weapon invisible to most. And the one who wields it intentionally always holds the upper hand. You have mastered the power of restraint. You have commanded timing. You have prepared in secret. Now, you'll master influence itself through the people you choose to surround yourself with. Chapter 10. Build a mind that cannot be provoked. Strength is not measured by what you can do. Strength is measured by what fails to disturb you. That's the key. Most people mistake noise for danger. They confuse insult for attack. They let words pierce them. They let opinions dictate their mood. They react. They escalate. They surrender control. Emotional immunity is the ultimate discipline. It is the final fortress of the unshakable mind. It is the foundation of every other skill we've discussed: delayed response, strategic silence, invisible preparation, precision, being underestimated. Without immunity, all other disciplines crumble under pressure. You have a choice. Let insults sway you, or let them pass through you. One feeds ego. One strengthens mind. One is weakness disguised as engagement. One is discipline disguised as calm. Think about provocation. Someone attacks your ideas. Someone questions your authority. Someone disrespects you. Most people take the bait. They react immediately. They defend themselves. They try to correct perception. They give away power. That is the trap. Provocation is a test disguised as an insult. Every insult, every jab, every critique is a small experiment. It's testing your control. It's measuring your response. It's observing whether you will surrender your mind to chaos or maintain command over it. You don't need their permission to remain calm. You don't need validation to maintain composure. You don't need acknowledgement to stay unmoved. Your state is yours. Guard it fiercely. Here's how to train it. First, recognize the trigger. Every provocation is predictable. Every insult has a source. Every attempt to disturb you is rooted in someone else's insecurity or agenda. Understand that. It removes personalization. It removes reaction. It removes the emotional spike. Second, breathe. Literally. Pause. A deep inhale. Hold. Exhale. This simple act creates distance between stimulus and response. That distance is where control lives. The gap is where power is exercised. Third, choose your response, or choose none. Most people never exercise choice. They react reflexively. Reflex is automatic. Discipline is intentional. Discipline means you decide whether the situation requires a reply, a correction, or total silence. You have a choice. React immediately or respond deliberately. One satisfies ego. The other builds invulnerability. One signals weakness. The other signals command. Fourth, practice repetition. Start small. Minor provocations in everyday life. Social media comments. Traffic incidents. Office annoyances. Observe your initial reaction. Pause. Do nothing. Reflect. Let your calmness accumulate. The brain rewires. The mind strengthens. Neural pathways of composure are forged. That's the process. That's the training. That's how mental immunity is built. Fifth, internalize the philosophy. If they can trigger you, they can train you. Repeat it. If they can trigger you, they can train you. Every emotional reaction is a lesson you did not intend to teach. Every lost temper is a lesson in vulnerability. Every overreaction is a blueprint for manipulation. Others will test, prod, and poke. They want to see if you will bend. They want to see if you will collapse. They want to find your weak points. Don't show them. Mental discipline is invisible. It is quiet. It is unnoticeable until results manifest. The provocateur thinks they are influencing you. The disciplined individual is immune. Nothing touches them. They observe. They analyze. They act only when it serves strategy. You have a choice. Be a puppet of external noise, or be the master of your internal state. One is temporary satisfaction. One is permanent advantage. One is reaction. One is power. Next, understand context. Not every insult requires response. Not every challenge requires action. Your energy is finite. Your attention is finite. Protect both. Wasting them on provocations is surrendering leverage. You don't need to prove yourself to every critic. You don't need to clarify your position to every challenger. You don't need to win every argument to win the war. Discipline allows selectivity. Discipline allows focus. Discipline allows calm. Another key: anticipate provocation before it occurs. Mentally rehearse insults. Imagine challenges. Visualize how you will remain unmoved. The mind, when trained, predicts the bait and neutralizes it before it arrives. The mind becomes a fortress. The mind becomes an environment of control. Resilience also grows from action. Act in accordance with composure. Speak only when necessary. Pause before responding. Observe patterns. Learn the triggers. Then, do nothing. That nothing is strength. That nothing is control. That nothing is dominance. Every person who has ever achieved true mental fortitude has followed this path. They were tested repeatedly. They learned to absorb insult without surrender. They refused to be drawn into emotional chaos. They cultivated patience, observation, and selective engagement. That's how mental immunity is forged. This is your final frontier. The mind that cannot be provoked is unstoppable. It cannot be distracted. It cannot be manipulated. It cannot be broken. It is quiet. It is calculated. It is deliberate. It is free. You have mastered preparation, timing, precision, delayed response, and strategic silence. Now, you master yourself, the last greatest challenge. Because external battles are trivial compared to the war within your own mind. Strength without control is rage. Control without strength is passivity. Combine both and you are unshakable. Combine both and no provocation can bend you. Combine both and your mental discipline becomes a weapon invisible to those who lack it. You have a choice. Allow provocation to dictate your mood, or let your mind remain sovereign. One satisfies emotional impulse. The other builds unbreakable resilience. One surrenders authority. The other exercises dominance. Choose dominance. Choose sovereignty. Choose invulnerability. Because if they cannot provoke you, they cannot manipulate you. If they cannot manipulate you, they cannot control you. If they cannot control you, you are free. Truly free. Free to act. Free to decide. Free to execute with discipline. Free to move silently but with unstoppable force. The mind that cannot be provoked is the mind that wins quietly, consistently, and indefinitely. You stopped reacting. You stopped proving. You stopped defending. You started observing, analyzing, and choosing. You have built the final layer of mental armor. That is the culmination of discipline. That is the essence of power. That is the ultimate liberation of the mind. You are now prepared to enter the world without surrendering to its noise. You are calm under pressure. You are precise under scrutiny. You are unshakable under attack. Your ego is quiet. Your mind is strong. Your control is absolute. This concludes your journey through silence, precision, timing, restraint, and emotional immunity. Now, take these lessons and live them relentlessly. Apply them daily. Enforce them without compromise. Strengthen your mind, master your environment, and silence the world's attempts to shake you. You are disciplined. You are unshakable. You are unstoppable. Silencing your ego is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is not submission. It is the highest form of strength available to a human mind. When you stop proving, you start building. When you stop reacting, you start controlling. When you stop seeking validation, you start generating authority. The loud chase attention. The disciplined command it. The emotional collapse under pressure. The restrained become unbreakable under it. This is your line in the sand. From this moment forward, you speak with intention. You react with calculation. You move with quiet certainty. No more unnecessary explanations. No more emotional reflexes. No more ego-driven noise. Only action. Only control. Only results. Your challenge. For the next 24 hours, practice deliberate restraint. Speak less than necessary. React slower than expected. Observe more than anyone else. And watch how quickly the world reveals its weaknesses to a silent mind.